Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh! Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict Chiefs post-game show. The Kansas City Chiefs backups fall to the Chicago Bears 29-27 after giving up 19 points in the fourth quarter. It doesn't matter. Who cares? The Chiefs beat the crap out of the Bears with their starters. Patrick Allen here with you. It's the boys. Price Carter, the blog father, Adam Best here to break down the last preseason game of the year. It was a doozy. There's tons to talk about. Chiefs starters look great. But fellas, that's it. Next time we see the Chiefs on a football field, they'll be in Brazil taking on the Chargers. Adam, why don't you kick us off, man? Give me your 10,000 foot, 50,000 foot view of this performance.
Ooh, that felt good, man. The offense felt like we were watching it last year's offense on fast forward. There's so much more speed with Rashee Rice being back, and he looks like his burst. No lingering effects of that injury, right? He looks all the way back. You have Xavier Worthy, more comfortable with the offense. You have Rashard Smith and Tyquan Thornton adding a lot of speed. And Mahomes came out immediately big game hunting. I think that was noticeable. Just his mindset this year seems to be more aggressive. He's looking downfield. I think he feels more comfortable with the offensive line and just the offense in general. But that was probably the biggest takeaway. They just looked super sharp. The other thing I noticed in the second half, Ashton Gillotte, man, just going absolutely bonkers like 3 plays in a row. On one of those plays, he made like a running back sandwich. Did you guys see this? Where the tackle's kind of hanging on him and he's just dragging the tackle. And then for some reason, he like clotheslines the tight end and like throws them both on the running back. It was incredible, man. I think we have a find in him. I was saying in the pregame show, now that FAU is looking iffy, we really need Ashton Gillotte to hit and really hit immediately.
Yeah. Price?
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know what else you can ask from Patrick Mahomes in this preseason. Obviously, he doesn't play the second game, comes out like 1 for 1 in the first game, throws a back shoulder fade, does that again in this game. Quite frankly, 3 drops in his 3 drives that he has. The drives could have been even more explosive than they already were. You get a drop from Rashard Smith, which was a tough catch, but also exciting to see him just be plugged into the ones here. It's very clear that they view him as a mismatch possibility there out of the running back position where they can, motion him out into an empty formation. Then he's lined up on a linebacker, clear mismatch there. You get a Kareem Hunt drop on an out of structure play. All that stuff is super exciting. But I went into this game knowing that Patrick Mahomes is great. I went into this game knowing that Travis Kelce has looked better in camp and that Isaiah Pacheco has looked better in camp. Most exciting thing from this game, the left side of that offensive line. They looked fantastic. I saw several good reps out of Kingsley Suamataia and pass pro, which was the biggest concern coming into this game. I felt much more comfortable. And also, I said, I do not care going into this game what the outcome is. Take some deep shots. It's a mentality. They were very intentional about this. You saw them come out where they had 2 wide tight ends on the right side. They do this play where they pull Creed Humphrey out and he's like the personal protector for Patrick Mahomes, which I love, by the way.
That's a cool play.
They were very intentional about going deep in this game. Establish the mentality. Don't let the defense dictate what you're going to do. Dictate to the defense. And I love to see that. And by the way, can we just acknowledge Trey Smith just snatching people's souls and you can see it in the run game where he's knocking bodies off, but in the pass game to get 2 pancakes, love to see it. You can't feel much better from what you saw from the ones here today.
Shout out to Campbell Cooks for the super chat. We appreciate your support. It says, will this performance cement Mahomes making the roster to the NFL media? I don't know. I think Colin Cowherd will be on there early next week talking about how, maybe Bailey Zappi should be the one leading the Chiefs offense from here on out. For me, what stood out when the starters were out there was weapons, which is not a thought that I've had in my head about the Chiefs offense for a couple of years now. But they came out and it seems specifically designed to feature all of the different offensive weapons that the Chiefs had. I've been a big Bashard Smith guy. I've been having, dreams of Brian Westbrook dancing in my head with Bashard Smith. And I've been excited to watch him all preseason. And he hasn't gotten a lot of run, not very much run at all with the starters when he's been out there. It's been very deflating. And I thought, okay, like they're seeing something in practice. Like he's not good. He's not ready. It's a pass pro thing or whatever. And then they come out in this game and I'm tweeting about Andy Reid playing possum. He gets 2 targets. The one that he should have brought in, it was a tough catch, but you saw the juice. Like he zoomed into the open field and it was a rocket from Mahomes. And if he caught that ball, he was going to go another 10 yards or so. You can see the juice that he has, but it wasn't just him. They got the ball in the hands of Isaiah Pacheco, who looked like he had his explosion back. Tyquan Thornton, who we've been hearing about in camp. Oh, boom. He's the deep threat, right? You saw Travis Kelce looked like Travis Kelce again. I mean, it was like, and then I didn't even mention Xavier Worthy. They got the ball in the hands of Xavier Worthy, and you saw what he can do with the ball in his hands. So for me, it was about showing off the weapons that this offense has. And I feel better about the offense after this. And it's just preseason, but like they haven't looked like that in a long time. And you should be jacked up about what this offense might be able to do this year, despite the fact that Rashee Rice is going to miss some games.
Yeah, and on Tyquan Thornton, how great was it to see a guy on his first deep rep with Mahomes actually have immediate chemistry? Because we've seen guys like McCole Hardman and MVS and even Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown last year struggle to get on the same page with Patrick Mahomes going deep. So he came out right away. They're on the same page, 58-yard bomb. Rashee Rice, I like the way they were utilizing him. I wanted to highlight that. He wasn't some slot manufactured touch guy tonight. They were using him outside a lot. The first person Mahomes went to tonight was Rashee Rice outside against press man. He draws a big penalty. He had a tunnel screen. He had like Price mentioned earlier, a back shoulder fade, which is not a wrinkle we've really seen from Rashee Rice in the pros. So I think we're seeing the maturation of a guy that has kind of been a slot weapon almost exclusively, sort of expand his game.
It's super exciting. Go ahead.
And one thing that I thought was it really showed itself here in this game is, and I think Robert Mays of The Athletic has been really good about kind of talking about this, that Patrick Mahomes, quarterbacks have their preferences. For Tom Brady, he wanted a really strong interior of his offensive line. Patrick Mahomes is the tackles. Some of the plays that we saw tonight, we saw the interior maybe not be as strong as the tackles, but Patrick Mahomes' ability to step up into the pocket or break contain, that felt like that chemistry was right back to where it's been in some of the earlier years. Those out of structure plays, like if Kareem Hunt comes down with that pass in the end zone, like that is something that this offense has been lacking for a while. It's felt like a lot of times now, if the pocket is closed down, if it collapses, that the play is over. And that's just not the case here, right? You get several drops here, but the out of structure element of the offense, it feels back. And man, I tell you what, the Travis Kelce wiggle, it might be back. That little shoulder shimmy that he has when he catches the ball and gets upfield, that was the best he's looked in a while. And let's be clear, like it's early, and I think that was probably his first reception of the preseason. So there's a long time ahead of him. But if he can be closer to the 2022 version of himself instead of the 2024 version of himself, that's going to help a lot.
More super chats to get to. Our guy Neil, really appreciate you with the 1999 super chat. Says, imagine if our quarterback was top 10 in mechanics, they would have scored in 4 plays on the first drive instead of 8. Of course, this is in reference to Dan Orlovsky's rankings of the top 10 quarterbacks via mechanics, which Mahomes was not on that list. I love Dan. I love his analysis in general, but that was insanity. Rhett Frago says, what role, if any, does Hollywood Brown have now? Is this a sunk cost? That's actually a really interesting point. I wasn't paying attention to this. Was he out there tonight? Is he still banged up?
Nope.
I did not see him. And I mean, honestly, you can't really blame them after the way his preseason went last year. And I mean, my response to that would be the fragility of this wide receiver core, right? We know that Rashee Rice is going to miss time at some point. Xavier Worthy is still not like someone who's going to be super susceptible to injury or someone who can withstand a lot of hits, right? Juju Smith-Schuster probably getting hurt at some point this year. Jalen Royals, still a rookie. Like Hollywood Brown's value to this is just depth at this point. I think that, like, you know, if you go back and look at his Pro Football Reference page, he still averages like 800 yards a season. Like, you will be surprised at how productive he's been, even though the injuries have stacked up for him. But at this point, it is as much about depth as it is anything else. So it does stink that we've not gotten a good look at him in this preseason. But keep in mind, everything that you just saw, Hollywood Brown still brings value to this roster as far as speed and what he can do on the outside, which is one of the few things that they're lacking. So, I mean, to me at this point, it's not a sunk cost. It's depth. You're probably not expecting 800 yards from him this season, but he's going to bring something to this roster, even if that is just being the extra guy who gets open on third down. And if you go back and look at him in the preseason, his yards per route run were amongst top 5 in the NFL. Now, I'm sorry, not the preseason, the regular season. When he got into the postseason, he kind of disappointed. But that regular season stretch he had coming back from injury, his yards per route run were like Nico Collins, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. So I do think that there is an efficiency part of his game that could be really valuable.
Yeah, he pops in that regular season game against the Texans, I believe, last year.
And the Steelers.
Yeah, on Christmas Day. He did. My worry with him is here's a guy that had a screw in his foot before he ever played a pro snap, and just the laundry list of lower body injuries, the other foot, knee injuries, hamstring, basically any lower body injury you can have, he's had. And this is what robs receivers of their athleticism and leads to the end. I mean, this is what came for Odell Beckham. This is what came for Julio Jones. Like nobody escapes it. I think this is what's coming for DeAndre Hopkins as we speak. That's my worry. But even if he doesn't get on the field a lot, I think having Juju and Hollywood Brown, Juju and Hollywood Brown around as mentors for these guys, because Hollywood Brown is a like perfect match as a mentor for Xavier Worthy. They're very similar body types, players, draft prospects. I mean, they were like picked almost in the exact same range in the draft, I believe. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, Rashee Rice coming out of the draft. I mean, if you look at their athletic profiles, it's like this is kind of the same guy. So I think they have some utility there, intangible wise too.
Well, let me ask you guys. I mean, are the Chiefs, do they have to keep 7 wide receivers now? Because you got Rashee Rice, you got Hollywood Brown, you've got Xavier Worthy. Now you have Jalen Royals, right? Like we figure those guys are all locks. Now you have the emergence of Tyquan Thornton. Everybody assumes Juju Smith-Schuster is going to make the roster, and you have people in the chat here saying, "Hey, Nico Remigio, he's on the team. He's going to make the team." That's 7 receivers.
I don't know, man. I don't know about Nico Remigio, because if all you're going to do is be a return guy, if you can get Rashard Smith or Tyquan Thornton to do that, and they're offering utility to the offense as well, I mean, that's a pretty easy equation to solve. I like Nico Remigio. I think he had some pivotal plays in terms of getting to the Super Bowl last year, obviously, but I don't think he's going to make an impact as a receiver. So that's why things get tricky for him potentially.
Pretty much every one of my roster projections I've put out 7 wide receivers. They've kept it the last couple of years. I do think that there is some give and take there, whether that be like 7 or 8 defensive linemen, 9 offensive linemen, because where it feels like it gets complicated, I think it's probably going to be 3 running backs, maybe 4 if they do bring someone in. That's Diana Rossini. Other people have been reporting that they're sniffing around the running back market. Feels like Smith, Pacheco, and Hunt are all locks for the running back. It feels like even though Wiley probably hasn't shown a ton, he's also coming back from the ACL. You feel like Tanyan, Kelsey, Gray, and probably Wiley are locks to make the roster. And the 7 wide receivers feel very much like locks to make the position, keeping in Thornton and Remigio. I think, that Dave Tope gets his guys. And you go back and look at the regular season, Remigio definitely did make an impact in the return game, though he doesn't have a huge impact. If you look at him as like another specialist rather than a wide receiver, and I mean, someone pointed out here in the chat that like he is in there doing things. If they can just find a role for him on offense, even if that's predominantly blocking, that's still going to be worth it. I think Rice not getting suspended at the beginning of the season makes this a little bit more challenging, because I think at one point that was the concept. And it's like, okay, we'll keep 6 wide receivers. Thornton will have a role because he can line up outside. And I think the offense and defensive line is probably the spot that's going to get the most messy. FAU going on IR, like I think that opens the door for Malik Herring. I think the 2 guys that stand out to me that like might have made the roster before that probably won't now because of the sheer amount of offensive players they have is a guy like Keziah Izzard, is a guy like Marlon Tulu-Pelotu, who are that true one tech, that run stuffing guy. That's probably not going to happen anymore, because I feel like they're pretty committed financially to Jerry Tillery, that he's probably going to make the roster, in which case that opens a door for them to keep like 26, 27 guys on offense and then be a little bit lighter. But they also have the flexibility of Chris Rowan Wallace and Shamari Connor, who can both play corner and safety. So I think that gives them some flexibility in the back end.
I want to ask you guys about Brashad Smith a little bit more. I know it was just a couple of plays, but the way that they were using him, the fact that they had him out there on that first drive and had plays drawn up for him out of the backfield with Mahomes. One, what kind of impact do you think he could potentially have this year for this team as that guy, that receiving threat out of the backfield? And what does that mean for a guy like Carson Steele? And also, what does it mean for like a guy like Elijah Mitchell? The fact that they're shopping for running backs, does that mean that like, okay, they like Pacheco, he's looking good. Smith they like as a receiving threat, but they're probably not very much behind between the tackles. Where they like Kareem Hunt, obviously. So are they looking for another bruiser for between the tackles? What do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, I think they wanted a sneak peek at Brashard Smith and what he can add as a receiving weapon and a piece you can move around. I don't know if they're ready to trust him as a pass protector, though. So I think they still might be shopping for a running back who can come in 3rd downs. And I mean, if they're going to spend all this money on the offensive line to protect Patrick Mahomes, they're thinking about that at the running back position too. And that's just a lot to put on a guy that has only been a running back for like 1 year of his life. And I guess, 1 year and change now, but I think they're going to use him. I think he will have some touches this year and have an impact, but you're asking a lot of him as a pass protector if he's going to be the sole 3rd down back. I think Elijah Mitchell, I was high on him because he's been a very efficient back in the past. He's had juice. I think he's cooked. I think they have made their decision. And then when it comes to Carson Steele, that just depends on how much positional flexibility Andy Reid wants. Does he want a fullback? Does he want those personnel packages, those kind of jumbo packages to match sort of what the Ravens are doing with a fullback or what the Buffalo Bills are doing with the 6th offensive lineman? And last week it looked like, man, Carson Steele was a lock to make this roster. And then this week he hardly plays. So it's a bit of a mystery. I'm kind of eager to hear what Price thinks.
I think Brashard Smith brings an element to this backfield that they don't have in anybody else, right? He brings the potential that you saw on that wheel route, where like obviously he's a strong route runner as a converted wide receiver, and the explosiveness that we saw even in that Seattle game where he's able to reverse a play and break contain and get out to the outside. That explosiveness is totally enticing, especially whenever you factor in the fact that Kareem Hunt is older and is susceptible to injury, and Isaiah Pacheco is obviously similar as far as susceptible to injury. I think Elijah Mitchell, I agree with you. I think the upgrades that the Chiefs are looking for right now, I think there's two things. I'm not sure Kareem Hunt is exactly what you want in a third down back. I think he's good in pass protection, but he's not what we saw from Samaje Perine. Like, think back to that play, and I wrote about this a couple weeks ago, where the Chiefs, they motion 3-by-1 to the left side. They have all the wide receivers run slants, clear out this space, running a pick route for Samaje Perine. Boom, they convert it. Chiefs go to the Super Bowl in the AFC Championship game. I'm not sure that Kareem Hunt gets to the edge in there because of the lack of bursts. Perine had that. I think they're still looking for that guy. I trust Kareem Hunt in pass protection. I don't know if I trust him as to be a guy that you're designing these rail routes for and other things that they use Samaje Perine for to have some big gains. So maybe they find that guy. Maybe it's, Travis Etienne or whatever the names that are going on the list. That's part of the reason why I wasn't super high on Brian Robinson. Because if you go and look at most of the advanced metrics, Brian Robinson's just Isaiah Pacheco. He's a first and second down back who breaks tackles, gets what's going to be there in front of you, but doesn't generate a lot of explosive plays, not really a pass catcher or a pass protector. You are basically at that point upgrading Elijah Mitchell, not necessarily upgrading the need for the Chiefs running back rotation. But man, I think long-term, if you can get what you want from Brashard Smith as a pass protector, someone that you can trust to protect Patrick Mahomes when you've got Terrell Bernard and Joey Bosa and Ed Oliver all come in, right? And he's the last line of defense to protect the franchise. I don't think that's going to happen in year one. I think Brashard Smith's role going into year one is going to be more similar to what we've seen from like a Dexter McCluster or a DeAnthony Thomas, where he's kind of a joker, a wild card role, where it's like, all right, jet touch, or we're going to do a sprint out option type of thing, or something like that, where he is basically a player that you can create touches for. And you know what? Maybe this game he only has 3 or 4 touches, but they're going to be impactful touches because he can be a mismatch on linebackers, because he can do certain things that none of the Chiefs running backs can do right now.
Yeah, that's what's got me the most excited about him is Andy knows how to use a back like this. And if he's able to develop within this system, develop into a pass protector, sharpen up his pass catching a little bit, like that. I'm not saying he's gonna be Brian Westbrook, but like they're not all that different size wise. Like, and this is Andy hasn't had that guy, right? Like since I know that McKinnon had a couple, like a nice little run of weeks there.
We won't have any Jerick McKinnon slander. He's about as efficient as a receiver.
No, he was great. I'm not slandering him, but I'm saying Andy hasn't had, like, when I think about the last time that Andy had that real threat out of the backfield was this season with Kareem Hunt and Mahomes before he got cut, where it was like Kareem Hunt was doing it all, and you're just sitting there and you're like, holy crap, this guy's like these two, Patrick Mahomes and Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, like we're going to be unstoppable. He was jumping over guys, remember, like in the passing game, and then ever since then, it's been like the running game has been boring. It hasn't been exciting since that incident.
Well, think about how exciting it's going to be, and think back to like early rookie season Kareem Hunt. That wheel route was so effective, right? They scored on that several times, specifically against the Patriots. Now you've got Brashard Smith, a guy who can actually track the ball. Whether you come out and empty, motion him to the backfield, he runs a wheel route or something like that, is going to be lethal. And do I think that this is a guy that you want to pick up on your fantasy team because he's going to be scoring regularly every week? No, but I do think that he can be the straw that broke the camel's back. Keep in mind, too, this offense didn't have Jalen Royals, who is a guy that I still have been very high on when I go out to practice and see. I think that, again, you're talking about a guy who's your 6th or 5th option here, but can do things over the middle of the field. And That's not something we saw them really target a lot in this game, the middle of the field. We saw something from Kelsey, but most of it was on the outside with Rice to the back shoulder fade, with Tyquan Thornton over the, and that's not an area that the Chiefs have really been able to attack the last couple of years. Why is that? Why have we not talked about the outsides? Because of the protection. And that's the thing that I just keep coming back into this game. There's multiple snaps in this game that Josh Simmons is blocking his guy to the sideline. And you know what? The Chiefs were intentional about that. Like I said, they had some snaps where they were lining up 2 tight ends to the right side, 2 tight ends to the left side. They're pulling guys out of protection but they were intentional about taking these deep shots. That's okay. You've got 2 rookies essentially on the left side of your line, but they're intentional about doing it. And they held up long enough that Patrick Mahomes is back there able to do what he does. So that's the thing. I think we're just going to come away from this. Like, it all comes back to like, oh, hey, this is what it looks like when this offense doesn't have a guard playing tackle.
I guess my final thought on the running backs is it's going to be a huge coup if the Chiefs have 2 7th-rounders contributing to an effective running back room. Because I know we've been spoiled, and Isaiah Pacheco, it probably feels like this happens more than it does. We also had Darwin Thompson. Like, this doesn't happen. James Robinson's, these guys that you don't find 7th-round running backs that contribute. If you play fantasy, these guys don't grow on trees. And the fact that the Chiefs grabbed potentially another one who, even if this year he's just kind of a gadget guy who brings some speed and makes the Chiefs more multiple, that's a win. And if he can develop into something more down the road, that's an even bigger win.
For me, the Tyquan Thornton thing is fascinating because I know it was one deep shot, and that can happen, right? It doesn't mean that he's going to go out there and put up 600-700 yards for the Chiefs this year. But if they turn Tyquan Thornton into, like, especially if Hollywood Brown continues to struggle with durability issues, if they can turn him into a 500-600 yard receiver for this team and a deep threat, after he was cast off from the Patriots, his best season in New England was in 2022. He had 247 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's it.
He did all this time we were bitching about the Chiefs not picking Pickens instead of Sky Moore. What if it ends up being Thornton who kind of makes us feel not so bad about the Sky Moore whiff?
You're muted, Price.
How funny is it, too, that all this time we complain about the Chiefs, they never pick these contested catch wide receivers or these shifty slot guys. They always go after the speed guys, and then they take the shifty slot route runner guy, quick release guy in Sky Moore, and then they go get their guy, the speed, smaller, undersized wide receiver. Let's go back, right, to 2023 MVS, a season that was mostly a disappointment for him. 21 receptions on 315 yards. He's basically just the sacrificial X, go run, touch the goalpost. If Tyquan Thornton could be that would be massive, right? And the Chiefs, they still get some value out of trading Sky Moore. It would just be huge for them to kind of do this. And also shout out to Robert Tonyan, who's running out there on the 3rd or 4th snap of the game with Xavier Worthy, with Rashee Rice, with all the starters. These are 2 guys that Brett Veach stashed on the practice squad this time last year or a little bit later. And now they both have a chance to not only make the roster, but really be contributors. I mean, are we all going to be shocked if we're sitting here on Friday night after the Brazil game and say, wow, Robert Tonyan, wow, Tyquan Thornton, these guys are scoring touchdowns in Brazil week 1? No. And that's a huge, I think the pro scouting side of the Chiefs front office is something that has been severely underrated. I put something out today. Jalen Moore is just looking like a great right tackle right now. They have a exit path off of Jawan Taylor. That's huge. Jalen Moore only played 12 games his entire rookie contract with the 49ers. That pro scouting part with Tyquan Thornton, with Robert Tonyan, that's a huge advantage to this roster going forward, because that's kind of the thing that people forget. It's not just the draft. It's not just that. It's also pro scouting.
With Tyquan Thornton, I was just going to say, if he's only slightly better Justin Watson, that's a big improvement on last year. If he's the guy that I don't know, 5 more times over the course of the season can catch a pass of 30 more yards, just a handful.
Yeah.
That makes a huge difference.
Well, and Watson did a good job of that, of kind of when Patrick needed one, Watson would show up and make that play for him. But in general, over the last couple of years, the Chiefs had just not had – it's not like it was when they had Demarcus Robinson on the team. And I know we always joke about him running backwards and stuff, but like he's a good receiver. He would make plays for this team. And they had guys like that would, Sammy Watkins was not a great receiver for this team, right? But he showed up and he made plays. The Chiefs had guys who would really step up and make plays for Patrick when he needed them to. And other than Watson occasionally the last couple of years, I mean, like last year, like they just had nobody. Even Travis wasn't getting open. Xavier Worthy was a rookie. Rashee Rice was injured. Juju wasn't really doing like there was just nobody. And when you see this game and you see the maturation of Xavier Worthy, and we know that Jalen Royals has been well reviewed in camp, and you see Tyquan Thornton step up, like it reminds me the role player guys were able to make plays and really make the offense dangerous because there was speed all over the field. There were guys that could make plays. They weren't the focal point. Now you've got Brashard Smith, you got Tyquan Thornton, even Robert Tunyon's probably going to make some plays. What about Noah Gray? Like there's these guys are here now, and I think that they're ready to go back to being a dominant offense, even if Rashee Rice misses time. I don't want to say that they're not going to miss a beat, but I think they're still going to be quite good.
I want to ask Price a little bit more about Kingsley Suamataia because I'm going to make an admission here. With Rashee Rice out there, when he was out there, I was pretty honed in on him and the skill players just because I wanted to see how they looked. We haven't seen these guys together as a unit. We haven't seen Worthy and Rice together a lot as pros. So, and the last 2 weeks have been pretty brutal for Kingsley, but I'm hearing better things about tonight.
Yeah, I thought, one of the things with Kingsley is you love the run blocking, and I think that even showed tonight. I thought there were several snaps where Pacheco looked like he had more space to operate. And one of the things that you like about Pacheco is he hits the hole. Obviously, he's going to hit it hard. That's the thing that he
hit the
really
wall,
well.
I mean,
yeah. But the second wave, right? Like there's always just a little bit more juice after that first contact with him. It's like, oh, it looked like it was going to be 4 yards and it's 6 or whatever. They were designing runs to the left side of the offensive line. I always thought, whether it be preseason week 1, week 2, that his run blocking was consistently his strength. Climbing to the second level, that athleticism, it shows. The thing with his pass protection was he abandons his technique. He starts weight spinning. He gets too much space, and he starts to panic. And then his hands get out of sync, and it's just messy. I thought he did a much better job this week. Obviously, I've not looked at the all-22, but I thought he did a much better job this week of sitting down, waiting for blockers to come to him, and controlling the pass protection. I think he got beat on a swim move here or there, but also let's keep in mind, let's just put this all in context. The Bears defensive line is basically Montez Sweat and a bunch of nobodies. I like Gervon Dexter. There's a couple other guys that they've brought in. Zach Pickens from South Carolina, when he was coming, he's a guy that I actually put in my article as a trade target. But the Bears defensive line, it's not full of dogs. So let's keep that in mind too. But the thing that jumped out to me is I did not see him abandon his technique. And you even heard it, Ari and Trent Green. They're like, Mahomes got all day back there. And again, I think that chemistry, I was just really glad to see them play them 3 full series. I know everyone gets concerned about the injuries, but they basically treated Kingsley Suamataia like Creed Humphrey in the preseason last year, where he got like 30 or 40 snaps tops in the entire preseason. I thought they were a little bit more deliberate in getting them snaps. So very encouraged by what I saw by the left side of the offensive line.
Do you guys feel like this one performance by Kingsley alleviates your fears about his prospects for the entire season?
No, and I'd like to see more Jalen Moore at left guard, but I'm sure that Andy Heck and Andy Reid, the Andys, have a plan. And I think one of the things they're probably worried about with Kingsley is the confidence factor, because I think that's huge with him. And if they yank him now, what's that going to do to his long-term psyche? So this is what they do. They like to stick with guys once they've made their decisions. And I'm sure that they have an emergency exit ramp if they need one. But I'm still worried for sure. I mean, like Price said, this was a weaker opponent. Last week, I think that the Seattle defensive line was a little better. So I guess we'll see against the Chargers. I'm trying to think about that defensive line, and I think it will probably be a little bit of a stiffer challenge.
Yeah, I definitely think that when it comes to the pass protection, like I was constantly measuring this by the ceiling and the floor. Kingsley gives you the highest ceiling because of the athleticism, because of what you've seen in the run protection and the youth, right? I think I would love to raise the floor of the offensive line. Like we will never know the tales of the magic of Jalen Moore at left guard. These were things that happened at St. Joe. So many people have told me that Jalen Moore is just the easy solution at left guard. The guy's never played an NFL snap in a regular season at left guard. It sounds like he did a fine job there, but that's not something they're very committed to. And he's very clearly their swing tackle. If I could push a button right now and have them bring in an Dalton Reisner or someone like that, or, I put in my article that I wrote this week for the site of Anthony Bradford, a guy that they met with out of LSU, who's been basically just an adequate guard for Seattle. They replaced him with Gray Zabel this year. If they could, swindle him for a 7th round pick or something, just raise the floor of that room where it's like, hey, if Kingsley is just doing things that we saw last year against the Bengals, where he's just panicking and abandoning all technique because of the mental aspect of the game as much as it is the physical aspect of the game, that raises the floor. Because we've seen what Mike Caliendo can do, and we know his ceiling is not very high. Kingsley's ceiling is much higher. But at the end of the day, like all those things, they take picks, they take salary cap space. I definitely feel much better going after this game. Now, we'll see how I feel after he faces Jalen Carter and Dexter Lawrence and Justin Madubuike consecutively. So we shall see.
Shout out to Anonymous Mango for the super chat. We already talked about Remigio, but he said Remigio getting reps with Mahomes and Minshew felt very telling of his standing on the roster. And as Price pointed out, Dave Tobe usually gets his guy, and he was the return guy. He was in there early and often, so it does seem like he's got an inside track to be on the roster. My deal with Kingsley, the thing that I'm most fearful of is that in these preseason games, he's putting stuff on tape. And he's going to get attacked. Like teams, when they game plan for the Chiefs this year, which they don't really do in the preseason, they're going to go after him. They're going to try to exploit that weakness. So he's going to be under fire, and the Chiefs are going to have to be ready for it. And hopefully he can continue to develop. We talked about Jalen Moore not playing a lot of guard. Well, Kingsley hasn't played a ton of guard either. So it's at this level, and I think that's something for us to remember. I think what we need to see is progress, right? It's unreasonable for us to think that Kingsley Suamataia is going to go out there and become an all-pro guard immediately, or even a Pro Bowl guard, or even a league average guard right away. And even Josh Simmons, he's going to get beat. Like, he's a rookie. They're going to attack. Teams are going to attack the left side of that line. And as good as Simmons has looked, he's going to have stretches where he struggles this season. And I think we all need to be patient, but we want to see steady progress. But let's talk about Simmons for a minute before we get to the defense. Price, and I can't remember, which it's a shame it's lame that I can't, because we were on the draft show together for hours. But what was when we were heading into the draft? How were you feeling? Were you a draft Josh Simmons guy heading into the draft? And how do you feel about everything you've seen now since he's been a Chief?
Yeah, so during the draft, I think as the process went on, I more and more warmed up to the Josh Simmons to the Chiefs. One thing that was a constant hang up for me, and something that I'll never truly be able to sleep deeply at night about, is the fact that we'll never truly know his arm length, just because of the weird discrepancy between the combine and then the pro day. But very clearly, no matter what happens this season, from what we've seen from him in the preseason, what we've seen from him, I mean, if you told me he was going to start day one of camp at left tackle with no hangups, right? The thing I keep coming back to is he went out there every day in St. Joe, and there was no, we're going to give him a day off because of the knees ailing, that all of a sudden, he's regressing. That injury has just progressed so far. But the movement ability, one thing that just really excites me between Creed, Trey, Kingsley, who we know is a high-level athlete at guard, and Josh Simmons, the screen game has a chance to be truly elite this year, especially whenever you're factoring guys like Rashee Rice, guys like Jalen Royals, guys like Xavier Worthy, Brashard Smith. I mean, that's going to be really fun. And I was really pleased with what I saw him. Shout out to Red Tribe Cinema on Twitter. Clay Windler always does a great job with just like super fast uploading all of the broadcast view of this. And I'll take a look at the all 22. Look, man, I know that there's not a ton of great edge rushers, but Austin Booker came into this game. Shout out to Kansas Jayhawk. Came into this game with like 4 sacks in the preseason, and he faced him and just shut him out. The movement ability has always been so great from him. You've seen that from that kick step. For me, it was about his hands. Like, what is he doing with his hands? I think sometimes he was arriving to his destination too quickly and kind of panicking with his hands and basically engaging because it didn't need to happen. I thought he did a better job this week of letting the fight come to him and being reactionary. And again, like, if the Chiefs can get what they need from the right side of their offensive line, good to see Juwan Taylor back out there. I know Jalen Moore start mostly at right tackle this week. Juwan Taylor's out there. You've got the highest paid center, the highest paid guard on the right side. They can bring chip help to the left side, whether it be a running back or a tight end. No matter what the team is, they're going to target that left side of the offensive line with stunts and games. But I was also pleased. I saw a nice little cross stunt that Kingsley and Simmons passed off nicely in this game. Good to see from them. The communication, the continuity, I think that's one thing that's worth investing. We talked about bringing in a veteran, something like that. But having those guys together, Kingsley and Josh Simmons, since day one of training camp, I think that continuity, it matters a lot. And you hear veteran offensive lineman Mitch Schwartz, Tim Grunard talk about that matters.
I love the point you made about the athleticism of the offensive line, because I remember a play from week 1 last season where Xavier Worthy takes this reverse and goes for a touchdown. And you see Trey Smith and Creed Humphrey downfield. And we know these guys are athletic, Juwan Taylor, but Kingsley, the way he was running was super impressive. That dude can haul ass. And now you got Josh Simmons. I think that left side is more athletic than it's been, probably, when you think about Donovan Smith and Joe Tooney. Good players, but not the kind of raw athletes that these two guys are. So you have potentially one of the best in terms of screen game offensive lines and getting these guys out in space. I think that they're really going to have a lot of options there.
First off, just thinking about the images of the physique of Donovan Smith and Josh Simmons. I mean, Josh Simmons looked like he could line up and run tight end routes, right? Also, I love Jesus Perez. Nothing cracks me up more than like Sterling always catching strays. I remember people still comment on our YouTube videos about his reaction to the Xavier Worthy pick. And then here we go. Sterling was just trashing the Josh Simmons pick. I love it. Like, especially because like Sterling, right? The most qualified person on the radio here in Kansas City. Shout out to him. Does a great job. Just love people coming after him in the comments all the time. Hey, what about let's switch over to the defense here a little bit. Defense. Looking really good with the starters, right? Obviously, the Bears helped him out there a little bit on the first series, bumbling the snap, some penalties and things like that. I thought this was a great showing for Jaden Hicks and most of the secondary in general. I was still a little bit surprised. Christian Fulton playing well into the second half in this game. It reminds me of, if you remember, Jalen Watson was kind of doing that in his final preseason game. Everyone was super concerned about Jalen Watson, and then he comes out and plays really good in the regular season. With Jaden Hicks making some nice impact plays as a tackler, closing in there on Colston Loveland on that nice mesh route there. I was excited from what I saw from the defense too. And shout out to the pass rush. Like, the Bears have invested some serious capital into their offensive line with a guy like Joe Tooney, Steve Avila. They spent a top 10 pick on Darnell Wright, the right tackle, and Chris Jones, Charles Omenihu. They're getting home against Caleb Williams, who has the pocket awareness of a bat, apparently, which, like, bats, I don't know if you know this, they don't see very well at night. They use echolocation. Caleb Williams is like, he the head goes down, it's over. But man, I was just really pleased with what I saw from the defense, and I have confidence that we will. And I think the best thing I saw all night, they go into dime. Christian Fulton on the outside, Jalen Watson on the outside, Trent McDuffie on the inside. That's what you like to see, especially considering you had most of the weak side or Sam side linebacker snaps being taken up by Leo Chanel here instead of Drew Tranquillo, who's still out with that back. I liked what I saw. And you still had no Omar Norman Lott, too, here, which, I mean, obviously, I think he's probably a role player this year. But I was excited from what I saw from the defense, especially considering the Bears just carved up the Bills starters like 37-0 or something like that. And I know it's preseason. Like, I'm not going to read too much into that. But the Bears were kind of looking like a preseason wagon here, and the Chiefs starters basically shut them out on defense.
This was the Chiefs dress rehearsal, right? And they go out there and for the defense, the Bears go 3 plays for 5 yards and a punt, 6 plays for 17 yards and a punt on their first 2 series. And at that point, they got a 12-play, 61-yard drive where they got a field goal, and I can't recall how many starters were still in at that point, but you saw what you wanted to see, right? From both sides of the ball for the Chiefs. Touchdown for the offense, touchdown, field goal, touchdown. That should have been 3 touchdowns if Kareem Hunt holds onto that ball in the end zone, and punt from the defense. So, and then even on the long drive, they only give up a field goal. This is, look, I don't know that this is going to be a top unit in the league, but if the offense gets its groove back, like Stella, then they only need to be, if they can be around 10, 11, somewhere around there, and Mahomes is Mahomes, and Kelsey's back, and the deep ball's back, and Pacheco's back, like that's plenty to win a Super Bowl. Adam, what'd you see out there?
Chris Jones, turns out he's pretty important. You inject him back into the defense, Trent McDuffie, Nick Bolton. It just last week, it didn't matter. The Seahawks could have stuck the like popcorn vendor back there, and he would have ran for like 10 yards a pop. It was some of the worst rushing defense I've ever seen in my life. And this week they looked fantastic. They looked great. And I think obviously having those guys out there matters a lot. But Christian Fulton, I'm still not totally sold. I was really high in the signing. I was hoping yes, this is the new Bashad Breeland. This is the new mercenary corner that's just going to come in, lock it down for a couple of years, get the Chiefs to their next defensive back gem that they find in the draft. Because usually these guys are homegrown, or they find them early like Charvarius Ward, and they build them up. So they don't go to this a lot, but I'm still hopeful, because what did we see on 3rd down in that first series? We saw McDuffie kick inside to the slot. I love that. I think that's the best configuration for this defense, because Chamari Connor is just too slow to live there as a nickel. So when you have Fulton and Watson outside and McDuffie in the slot, I love that. I think that is what we want to see on 3rd down. I'm trying to think. I mean, defensively, I know it was the second half, but again, I have to talk about Ashton Gelati, because there was a 3-play sequence there where he was kind of unblocked, but he blew up a run. And then on 2nd down, he had a great pressure that they called a roughing the passer, which is just soft, a very
horrendous
soft. I mean,
ball.
It was so soft. I mean, come on, guys.
I thought he got a strip sack for a second. Like, that's how close it was.
It was
and
very
the fact
close.
That they called roughing the passer is absurd.
And he showed a little dip there. I like that. He showed a little bend. And then 3rd down, of course, was that like crazy running back sandwich thing he did. So they're going to need him, man. I don't remember FAU ever having a sequence like that. No matter, I don't care if it was against second stringers or whatever. I just don't remember him flashing to this degree, like kind of wrecking a drive like that. I mean, maybe there was a penalty, or they ended up like prolonging the drive, but he really impressed me out there. And I think he's been impressing me all preseason long. I'm trying to think about other guys. I mean, of course, it's great to see Leo play more, Leo Chanel. Love him as a blitzer. You see him a little bit on the edge. I think his versatility is important. It's going to be an even better linebacker unit when they get Drew Tranquil back. He's a very smart player. I think he started slow last season, but has been very important to the defense during his time in Kansas City.
Yeah, I loved your point there with the FAU impact. Like, we did not ever see that sort of sequence from FAU going into this. And I think, Tim Grunhard, Chiefs Hall of Fame center, always points this out. In the NFL, when you hesitate, you lose. It definitely seems like Gelati is still thinking sometimes, and sometimes he's guessing wrong. But the fact that he's in the position that he is to make splash plays, that is going to translate. And we're seeing more from him early on. It is going to translate. And we're seeing more from him early on than we ever saw from FAU. And I think part of that is just the like, I keep coming back to that with FAU, where it's just like, as an edge rusher, especially in a C Spagnuolo system, power has to be a part of your game. He never displayed the necessary power to be able to do that. And then his burst wasn't explosive enough to actually win around the edge. Something else that I thought was really exciting from seeing this defense here is the safety rotation, right? Like, no Mike Edwards in this game, but I thought the safeties look much improved from what we saw in Seattle, where you've got Jaden Hicks mixing in. Like, I was kind of going into the game thinking about, like, was I wrong about Jaden Hicks? I get frequently asked, like, who is your impact, the Chiefs defender that you think, or the Chiefs player that you think has a breakout year? And Jaden Hicks was always my go-to because of the turnovers, because of the draft stock and everything that we love about him as a player. And it looked like Shamari Connor and Brian Cook were just going to be the starting safeties for this team. I feel more confident coming out of this game that Jaden Hicks is going to have a role in this team and is going to be impactful, whether that's just true 3 safety sets, or maybe that's as a slot defender where they used him a little bit more. I think the versatility of the secondary, we've got Hicks, Connor, McDuffie, who can all run out of the slot. McDuffie can run out wide. You've got Fulton. You've got Watson. I think there's a real versatility of their secondary that if they can get up to the communication part of this game, it's going to be really special, especially whenever you remember they didn't have Drew Drinkwell in the field in this game. So Jeffrey Bassa continues to pop with his athleticism. Another guy that it's like, hey, if they can ever get him thinking less, that's going to pop. Year one, I think you just hope for him like QB spy and then like dime packages, 3rd and 17. Can he be effective in covering in that running back out of the flat?
A couple fringe guys I want to talk about really quickly before we give out some hardware and do earning their arrowheads. And it's on the offensive side of the ball. How about this guy, Jimmy Holiday? Obviously he has the nice 50-yard pass from Oladukin, but then he also flashed on special teams. Is this guy like destined for the practice squad, given the depth that the Chiefs have at receiver right now?
Man, that play in kick coverage, like he made a nice play as a receiver, but that play in kick coverage, like so often you see in the NFL, the guy run down the field and then they have that breakdown moment. It's like, okay, look at the belly button. That's like what I was taught, like breakdown tackle, or we're looking at the belly button. We're going to tackle him. He closed in there and made that tackle. That was so great. The Chiefs wide receivers, like I think Jason Brownlee belongs on the NFL roster somewhere. And I think Jimmy Holiday is showing something. And that's not even including like Elijah Badger, a guy that I was really high coming out of the draft, thought I had a chance to make this roster. They did a nice job of bringing in guys who can fill roles. And I was excited to see him. Quietly, I was a little bit excited from what I saw from CJ Hansen in this game. I thought this was his best game. Thought he did a little bit better job of anchoring and bringing the fight to his hands more so than we've seen from other games from him, but I think it's a little too late for him. But yeah, I thought there were some fringe guys here who had a nice performance too. I thought Cam Jones looked a little bit better in this game than what we saw from Jack Cochran and what is the other white linebacker who is absolutely awful? Jack Cochran and Cole Christensen. That's the other one.
Cole Christensen. Yeah.
Brutal.
It's so funny. I always wonder this time of year, like, are some of these guys going to suddenly find themselves on IR, come down with a catastrophic injury?
I think it was going to happen to Brilliant Stool.
Yeah, right. And these guys that they want to keep. But then I also wonder when you see guys like this, sure, you want to stash some people on the practice squad, but are there any teams that are calling them up that maybe they had their eye on these guys as UDFAs, and then they see what they're doing in the preseason and they make a call to the Chiefs about a potential trade? But it'll be interesting to see if these guys. I mean, Holiday, it was just impressive, man. Although with both Holiday and Thornton, can these guys keep their feet on these deep balls so they can score touchdowns? Why are they falling down?
I don't think Thornton would have made that. I went back and watched it. I think he kind of had to lunge a little bit, or it would have been long on that Thornton play. And given how bad the chemistry has been deep with Mahomes and some of these receivers, I'm not going to pick nits here. Like he came down, he stayed in bounds. His feet were in bounds, and he didn't drop the ball. I'm thinking about that play, a similar play where MVS dove in the Philadelphia Eagles regular season game and dropped it and cost the Chiefs pretty important victory there on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. Look at this. We got a clown here in the I'll tell you what, it takes a special kind of bozo to be flaming a post-game show after getting a win in a preseason game with your backups. Jakku or whatever over here says 7 seconds ago, camera pans over to Mahomes and he's laughing. We run the North now, bear down, take your L. The refs didn't give you all the calls, would have got blown out. I mean, can you imagine? Man. I'm in Chicago. It's 11:30, right? It's 11:30 on a Friday night. And but this is what we used to be, right? Like we used to be so bad that we would win a preseason game and we'd be like, oh, we won that preseason game with the backups, and we'd be celebrating it. And that's what happens. That's what happens when your franchise is a poverty franchise.
But what are we doing?
Celebrate this.
What are we doing here? The Chiefs starters were dog walking the Bears starters. It was not even close. I mean, the defense looked dominant. The offense was getting whatever they want. Like Price pointed out, they had multiple drops. It didn't matter. They were carving through them like a hot knife through butter. And your third and fourth stringers won the game with 2 seconds left. I mean, who cares? Who cares?
Also, by the way, my 1-year-old son has a better grasp on the English language than this guy, as he writes. If the refs didn't give y'all all the calls, you would have got blowed out. Listen, buddy, I think you ought to maybe open an English book. Go back to
Grammarly. School. Get a Grammarly account.
Get a Grammarly account.
I mean, shout out to the team that's picked in the top 10 for like the last 10 years. They actually have some depth. Congratulations for the team that's been able to do that for year over year. It's a truly accomplishment, right?
Yeah, here he goes again. If your squad can't competitive, don't lose sleep. Oh boy.
He's like a poorly trained AI bot. All right, let's give out some hardware and get the hell out of here. It's time for earning their arrowheads. Even in the preseason, we give some hardware out to players that we think showed up and did a fantastic job. I'm going to start us off because I always have to go last, and then I'm always struggling to pick people. I'm going to give one to Patrick Mahomes, man. He played fantastic in this one. Looked sharp, looked aware, looked accurate. The only issue I had with him was when he caused that pressure on. I think it was the first down play to Juju Smith-Schuster where he had to bail out of the pocket. He didn't need to, and he caused a little flashback to last year. I think that he had, and he felt that pressure and moved when he didn't need to, and made it harder than he did. But because he's Patrick Mahomes, he wormed his way out of it and then went out there and made a play anyway. So I'm going to give one to Patrick Mahomes, and I'll toss one more out there. I'm going to give one to Jimmy Holiday. I'm going to leave some more obvious ones for you guys. I'm going to give one to Jimmy Holiday. He may not make the team. Maybe he ends up on the practice squad. But all you can ask for, a guy like that just trying to make it in the NFL and put some good stuff on tape. He did it. He should get a call from somebody if it's not the Chiefs.
I'll give mine out to two guys who I think needed to have good performances tonight, and that's Kingsley Suamataia, who much was written, much was said about his performance the last 2 weeks. And I thought he came out and put out his best performance. For a guy who's struggled, I think, mentally in the game at times, I thought he put together a good performance. I'll also give a shout out to Jaden Hicks, who I thought was a guy who at times didn't have quite the camp, didn't have quite the step forward that certain people wanted to see from him. I thought he had a great performance this week, not only as a tackler, but also in coverage, where he was always in the hip pocket of the defender and making plays on the ball. So shout out to both of those guys. I think, those are the type of guys that make plays in big moments in big games. And the Chiefs will certainly be in a lot of those going forward.
I was going to give mine to Ashton Gelati, but I've just been gushing about him all night long. So I'll pick two other guys. First is Trey Smith. We were I think some people didn't like his performance in the Super Bowl. We're worried like maybe he won't be the same guy after he gets paid, but he was out there dropping bodies. That same mean streak persists. He's the same old dude, the same old 65. I love seeing it. And I think the way he plays makes Patrick comfortable. So the other guy is Rashee Rice. We missed him so badly last year, and having him back looking like himself, actually maybe looking better than he's ever looked. Just the way this guy carries himself, you can just see it. You can just see his body language, his confidence. He has that it factor. I feel like we're watching a star blossom. I really do. I know it's hard to project what kind of year he's going to have because we don't know how long the suspension is. But I think he's destined, unless it's like, I don't know, 8 games, he's going to have over 1,000 yards. He's probably still going to have over 100 targets. I think he's just going to eat this year.
You mentioned that people didn't like Trey Smith's performance in the Super Bowl. Yeah, no shit. We didn't like it. The only guy who performed in the Super Bowl was the bus driver who got the Chiefs the hell out of there.
Worthy, maybe Xavier Worthy. I don't know.
Sure, Worthy did all right in cleaning up and mopping up in garbage time. But we could throw that whole burn that, bury it, pour holy water on it, do whatever you need to do. Have the priest bless it. God Almighty.
Did you hear Veach said that during the broadcast that he won't watch the last episode of the Kingdom documentary, episode 6, because he just doesn't want to see that. I'm not going to watch that one.
Yeah, I mean you got all the way to the Super Bowl. As a GM at that point, there's nothing you can do. Just move on, and you got to look ahead. It's stoic philosophy, right? Like it happened, and what are you going to do about it?
We were just on vacation, and my dad made us watch that game. It was the only time we fought in 7 or 8 days was when he put that game on. I was just like, this is a bad idea. Nobody wants to see this. I want to Men in Black myself and never think about this game again.
Just remember that I had to host the halftime show there. Okay. So it was already a shit show at that point. The halftime show, I was like, well, the Patriots, they came back from 25-0. Just reading over the stat lines and everything. The halftime show was super bleak for that game.
Oh, as somebody who was in the stadium sitting in front of a row of Eagles fans screaming the entire time, and who was working and could not drink. Adam, your brother Zach was there, co-founder of Arrowhead Addict. He was there. He was going as a fan. He was able to just drink his face off for the entire second half to numb the pain. Not me. I had to sit there stone cold sober. I wasn't at home. I was at work. And boy, that was brutal. I went home. Zach and I went and got a couple of beers after that. And then I got a couple of roadies, and I just sat in my hotel room, and it was a sad scene after that game.
I mean, it was a sad scene on the post game. It was Price, me, and Sterling. It was like a funeral. I mean, we held it together, and we, we're good soldiers for the Chiefs fans out there who are probably pretty demoralized. But it was a rough night. I don't want to relive, and it already was kind of deja vu, because very similar to Super Bowl 55. Can we please not get blown out in a Super Bowl again? Is that too much to ask?
Look, man, if every time we get blown out, we we win a Super Bowl, we get blown out, then we win 2 more Super Bowls, then we get blown out. If that means we're going to win 3 Super Bowls and then get blown out again, sign me up. I'm here for it. Shout out to Woo's guy in the chat. My Arrowhead goes to @JQ, the Bears troll, for making me realize my first grade kid is actually doing pretty well in English. Followed up by Oregon fishing. 2 words, Rosetta Stone. Amazing. Listen, guys, we got to get out of here. But before we do, we have a members only Arrowhead fantasy football draft. It's happening right now as we speak. We've got another one that's going to be happening as soon as we get that last slot filled. If you want to become a member of the Arrowhead Addict podcast, now's the time. This is the last preseason game. We're heading into the season. That's when things really pick up for our members. We were all hanging out in the private Discord, watching the game tonight, talking about what we were seeing. That's a great way for you to connect with other Chiefs fans, especially if you're outside of Kansas City like I am. Again, the members only fantasy football leagues, another perk that we do. Obviously, it's filled this year, but and another really cool thing we're doing this year is we're going to be giving away a jersey and a hat, something like this, to our members every single month throughout the entire course of the season. So we're going to do a drawing. If you're a member, for our Ring of Honor members, our highest level, they're going to be eligible for the jersey. Everybody else will be eligible for something along the lines of a hat, something a little bit lower value like that. Now's the time. Click the link in the description. Become a member of the Arrowhead Addict podcast. You support the show. We invest all this money back into the podcast. We don't make a dime of profit off of it because we want to bring you the best possible Chiefs multi-platform content that we can. And so join us. Come hang out. Come talk ball. It's a great time. A lot of really great people. All right, guys, let's get out of here. The Chiefs, most importantly, they didn't get out of there with the win, but it seems like they got out of there relatively healthy. Didn't seem like there were any major injuries. That's all that matters. And the offense looks good. They should have plenty of confidence heading into the season opener. It's going to be on Friday, September 5th, I believe is the date, in Sao Paulo, Brazil, against Jim Harbaugh and the San Diego, Los Angeles, don't have any fans, don't matter what city you put them in, Chargers. All right, everybody, we're going to get out of here. For producer Richard, for Price Carter, for Adam Best, I'm Patrick Allen. We'll see you guys next week with our regular slate of shows. But until then, enjoy the weekend and go Chiefs.